Today we're gonna make an easy and delicious French dip. This would be perfect for the Super Bowl or really anytime you wanna make a bunch of sandwiches easily. Here are all the ingredients. Let's get into it right now. On this show, we always like to go over the ingredients. So I think it's all, like it will help any cook. So always get everything out what you need. Let's talk about the beef first. We're making French dips here. So French dip's really supposed to be sliced, very thin sliced beef, roast beef, okay? You could use a few different cuts, eye of round, rump roast, with bottom round, top round, whatever. They're all lean cuts and they need to be cooked to the rare side, rare to medium rare, and then sliced. And that's how you will get when you order a French dip in any restaurant. You will never get a French dip in any restaurant that will serve you chuck roast. Now, chuck roast is great, and there's a lot of shortcut versions online. Let's see how my knife skills are. Let's see how we do with this, and it's better this way. There's something about when you get a really thin slice of beef, when you dip it in the juice, it's really good. This roast was only $5.99 a pound, so it's inexpensive too. Recipe says a 3-pound roast, but I have about almost 6 pounds here. All I did was salt this overnight at a 1 to 1.5% salinity. Okay, I think I did 1.25. So simply, this is almost 3,000 grams, 6 pounds. 1% of that would be 30 grams of salt. Okay, and then 1.25 would be more. So it's about 3 tablespoons of Diamond Crystal Kosher salt. If you use a 3-pound roast, you're going to use 1.5 tablespoons of Diamond Crystal Kosher salt. Nice fat cap. Fat cap is going to give a lot of juice. If you don't have a fat cap, I'll talk about later on what you can do to help give more flavor for the juice. In addition to that salt, I just put on pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. Okay, just all over it. All right. It's went in the fridge overnight. It dries it out, and the salt more absorbs into the beef. So I took this out now an hour before roasting it. Let's talk about these ingredients. Okay, these are the ingredients for the juice. So I have 4 cups of beef stock, no sodium. Okay, try to use no sodium. It's going to be better because we're going to reduce this later to concentrate it. If you had a salty one and you concentrated it, it will be more salty. I have 2 large onions that I just sliced. I have 2 ounces, quarter cup, 60 mLs of dry sherry, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1.5 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour, then a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. That's just my oven. I have my oven set to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So set it to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, I have 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, garlic powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. This is all gonna be for our beef juice. Our beef, so we're making French dip au jus, okay? French dip with juice. I have 4 tablespoons of butter. We might not need any of that if we have a lot of fat from our drippings. I suspect we will because we have a nice fat cap. And then we're gonna make that really delicious juice, and then we're gonna pile that beef, that thin sliced beef, on a hero roll. Now I only have one because I'm only gonna make 1 sandwich for the taste tester. And then I have Swiss cheese, but you can also use provolone cheese, mozzarella, sliced mozzarella, anything you like. If after all that our juice isn't beefy enough, there's a couple things you can do. You can use reduced sodium, better than bouillon beef base. I use this in a ton of recipes. And that's not as salty as this Campbell's beef consomme. There's a couple choices there. We're trying to make an easy French dip today, not like a super complicated one with roasting bones or anything like that. If you do want a more complicated one and you want to roast bones and you want to make like a nicer juice, watch my prime rib video. I did all that in that video. But this is simple. This is like for game day, so you want to make this simple. Okay, so my oven is at 500 degrees. There's enough room to accommodate the roast, okay? I have 2, but you probably have one 3-pounder. Instant read thermometer and an oven-safe digital thermometer, okay? 2 different things. Have both of them. I recommend both of them. Buy them. You're going to need them, okay? So, because you really want to use this one to double check if you didn't put this probe in right, which I mess up frequently. So if you go through the side here like this, you're going to have like holes every time you slice it. If you go up high, you might hit the top of your rack in the oven. So do whatever you like. Doesn't really matter. These are both exactly the same size pretty much. Again, take it from top to bottom. It's about that much, so we want to go halfway. Right about there. It should read about 45 degrees, which it is. It's been out of the oven for an hour. 43 degrees. Because my refrigerator is 39 degrees. But I'm telling you, every time I do this with this thermometer, I just never get it exactly right. So I always, once it's telling me like it's getting near, then I always check with this. So we're gonna roast this at 500 degrees for 15 minutes. Fat cap up if you have a fat cap. The juice will go inside the beef. It'll go around, drip off. We're going to check this at about 100. When that says 100, I'm going to start checking with this. And then you can cook this to whatever temperature you like. I think the rarer you go, the better it's going to be. If you want it like really rare, cook it 110 to 115 Fahrenheit, okay? That's when you're gonna pull it. 125 for medium rare or 135 for medium. Remember, when you pull it, it's gonna increase temperature a little bit more. So just keep those in mind. I'll probably pull this around 115. 15 minutes, 500 degrees, then lower the heat to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The oven, 15 minutes, and then it's been another 45. It's been exactly 60 minutes. Okay, that looks really good. Well, this fat cap kind of turned over, but it's all right. Still good. I'm reading 115 degrees right now, if you can see that, 115. Let's get a little double confirmation here. 115, 114, 113, 5. You go a little bit more, maybe a few more minutes. But if you do leave it like this, it's completely fine because even if it's on the rare side, we're gonna like wrap this, we're gonna get it cold first so we can slice it well. It will still increase in temperature and you're dipping it in the hot juice anyway. It's up to you how you like it, but those two thermometers are in line. We're at 115, it'll rise up to about 120 to 125 degrees. If you like it more, throw it back in for another 5-10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. It's better when it's more towards the rare side, any type of roast like this. Just take them, put them over here on a cold wire rack. You can put it on straight on a cutting board, it doesn't matter. We're gonna keep this wire rack with all the fat in here. It's not too much, but we'll still be fine making the juice. Let this sit for about 30 minutes before you wrap it. So my pan has cooled off a little bit. There's not that much in here, not that much fat. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of it. We're gonna have to use that butter, okay? Sometimes, you know, like I trimmed some of that fat cap. I shouldn't have. I would have got a little bit more liquefied fat. I probably only have about a tablespoon here. So you're gonna need about 3 more tablespoons of butter to equal that. We wanna get all this, you know, little brown bits here out of there for flavor. So just stick your pan right here and just turn it to about medium. So this is just the 4 cups of the stock. I'm just taking a ladle's worth, just put it in here, okay? And I just want to get this stuff removed here, okay? All those flavor bits. If something's giving you a hard time, just put it over the heat and then it'll come off. But right away when I do that, you can smell, it smells a lot beefier. Eye of Round is a really like just beefy roast. It just has a ton of flavor. That's why I like to use it for this. And it's inexpensive. If I did it with a prime rib, it would be better. But a prime rib is not, you know, it's a lot more money for you. And just, you know, if you need more liquid, just use a little bit more liquid. Turn it off. Okay, and just pour it back in here, okay? Just any pan will do that will accommodate at least about 5 cups of liquid. Okay, here's that butter. I'm just gonna use all 4 tablespoons. Here's that remaining fat from the beef. What's nice about a recipe like this, you can do it all ahead of time. So I'm gonna make this juice right now ahead of time because the beef's gonna go in the fridge to solidify so we can slice it. But you could do all this the day before and then make a ton of sandwiches the next day. And in fact, since I have 2 roasts there, and that's just 1 eye of round that I just cut in half, so it was a 6-pound piece, I can just wrap the other piece really well and just freeze it. And then, you know, then I have roast beef whenever I want. Just a pinch of salt. We want to get these nice and brown, so it's going to take about 15 minutes. I forgot to tell you, this fat cap here, okay, the fat that's on here, it makes it harder to slice after, so you're not going to really want it for the sandwich anyway, so you can like take some of this right now, cut it off, and use it for over here with the onions. That's what I'll do. So like this part right here. So that's all fat there. Throw it in there. Okay, some of that will liquefy in here while we cook these onions. Been going about 10 minutes. By the way, I took those large pieces of fat that I just cut off and I did it from both roasts. And I just cut them into little tiny pieces. Okay, you can see them spread out in here. Man, I took a bite of a few of those. Oh, so good. Now look, you could just stop here with these onions like this, but I would get them cooked a little bit more. 10 more minutes. Just keep spreading them out so they get even contact. You're not doing full caramelization here. We're not doing an hour. But this will help flavor our juice more. And then you'll be left with the choice. You'll see in a bit if you want to keep the onions in it or if you want to strain it. Personally, I like to strain it, so then if someone likes it on a sandwich, they can put a whole bunch of onions on. Okay, so it's probably been about 15 minutes total cooking time. That's what they look like. You can easily do more than that if you want. I made a mistake, but it's not a big deal. When I deglazed the pan, the roasting pan with the beef stock, you're supposed to use a sherry too. It doesn't make a difference. I don't want you to get confused because then you're like, oh, the video's not following the recipe exactly. So follow the print recipe, just use it there. It's easier, then you just have all your liquid, but it doesn't make a difference. Here's 1.5 tablespoons of flour. Flour is going to, just 1.5 tablespoons is going to thicken just a touch. If you don't want to do that, you don't even need it. Let it cook for about a couple minutes until it gets all the white specks out of it, and then you can cook it longer if you wanted to get a little bit of a nutty flavor. Now I'm going to add in that sherry. Okay, it's just 2 ounces, quarter cup. And then this is that whole 4 cups of the no sodium beef stock along with the deglazed liquid from the pan, our drippings. 2 teaspoons Worcestershire sauce. Okay, just turn your heat up to high. Bring it to a boil. Half teaspoon onion powder, half teaspoon garlic powder, and half teaspoon black pepper. Now, you can concentrate it, so we're going to reduce this by 1/3, okay? So simply 100% of our liquid, we want to turn into 67%. I want to make sure you don't reduce it to 1/3 of it. Reduce it by 1/3. Okay, you can stick your spoon in there like so. Make a visual reference of kind of where it was and go down about 1/3, all right? You don't have to be scientific with this. Yeah, this show will never be scientific, and I love it that way. All right, this is only going to take a couple minutes to reduce by 1/3. And honestly, you can taste it right now, and if it's good enough for you, you can stop it. All right, it's on its way to reducing by 1/3. I can tell Ray is going to need a little bit more beefiness, so I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of the Better Than Bouillon beef base. This is reduced sodium, okay? So 1 teaspoon of this is 375 milligrams of sodium, okay? Which isn't that much for this amount of liquid. And it's good that we started with the no sodium boxed beef stock. Or make your own homemade beef stock, okay? Make sure that it dissolves completely in here before you start adding more to it, so you know if you got the taste you want. Okay, and this is reduced enough for me, so I'm going to turn that off. That'll still melt in there because it's very hot. Let's strain this. So just use the same measuring cup that we were using before. All right, that's an 8 cup, so that'll be fine. And just be careful here. You don't want to lose all of the juice that you just worked for. Okay, let's see. Whoa! Almost slipped out of my hands there, but we're good. So these onions are great to save for later, like for anybody who wants on a sandwich. So just do that. There's a lot of fat on here, so you can defat some of it if you like. And then you can keep this in, you can put it back in your pot. You can keep it warm. You can just keep it like this, microwave a little bit like in a serving bowl when somebody wants it. I'm just gonna save this for later. Let's wrap the meat. It's probably been about 45 minutes have elapsed. I think I say wait an hour, but you can do this like even after like 20 minutes. It is okay to do it. All right, let's just get some plastic wrap. I got to get myself the better plastic wrap that's wider than this Costco one. Need like the 18-inch wide. Okay, do it for both. If you plan on slicing both, you don't even have to do it for, if you're not going to slice the other one, don't worry about it. And then put it in the refrigerator for at least an hour. See, like, kind of like a blob, it's like, that's 125 degree meat. Kind of soft. Even if you're really good with a knife, you have a super sharp knife, it's going to be harder to cut, more difficult than if it solidifies. You don't have to worry if the beef gets cold. It's fine. It doesn't matter, okay? That's how it's done. It's always done that way, all right? So let's get it in the fridge, and then we will slice it. We'll make the best French dip sandwich for the taste tester, and we will see what he thinks. We have our roast. It's been in the fridge for about an hour. We need a really sharp knife. If you don't know how to sharpen a knife, I would suggest you watch some YouTube videos. Maybe I'll make one on it. You can get stones and everything, and that'll really help you if you can learn how to do it, but you really got to be able to keep a proper bevel angle or you can ruin your knife, okay? The simpler way is just to get a cheap, inexpensive sharpener, and I'll show you. So this thing's like 15 bucks on Amazon, and this thing works awesome. As long as you didn't destroy your knife, don't put your knife in a dishwasher, you're going to be fine. I got like very expensive Shapton water stones in there. I have diamond stones, all different ones, and they're great, but a lot of people are never going to learn how to sharpen with those, and you're going to ruin your knives if you don't learn. So anyway, for this one, all you have to do, okay, it has a coarse and a fine. Now, if your knife isn't messed up, just go right through the fine, okay? Just like this, just keep it straight, okay? Don't put a lot of pressure or anything, but just make sure that your knife is straight, okay? Meaning like you're not like this or like this, okay? So you're plumb, okay? In carpentry, you're plumb. You know, when you hang a door, right? 5 strokes. Go like this with the knife. You can check if your knife is super sharp. It'll stop on a dime on your nail, okay? If you're a little bit more skilled and you know how to hone, okay, you can start honing at the angle that it is, okay? So it's about a 15-degree angle. But if you don't know how to do this, and it's very hard to do with a long knife like this, this is a slicer knife, which I recommend you get. This is a 12-inch knife. You know, you go to like a butcher carver station, and the guy will be like, he'll be going like this, and he's not keeping an angle. He's trying to be fancy, and he's destroying the knife. But you have to keep the right angle of it, okay? So it's about 15 degrees. Check your knife again, and you didn't mess it up. Right? And all that honing rod does, it just knocks off the burr on your knife. That's it. That's all it does. It doesn't sharpen it. But just anywhere you go, no matter if it's down here, okay, or if it's up towards the edge, you need to be able to cut it. If you're getting resistance there, so like say like this is super sharp here, okay, super sharp. But then say up here, it's giving you a little harder time, which it is right there, okay? Your knife might need a little bit more work. Because when you do use a knife, it's certain parts are getting more work than other parts. All right, I digress. Anyway, this has been in the fridge for an hour, okay? We have a sharp knife now. We're gonna be able to cut really thin slices. Not as thin as a meat slicer can. That's impossible. Nobody could do it. Here is our meat. Now this is the fat cap from before, and I cut off most of it. The hard fat on the outside will give you a hard time with your knife, really, no matter how sharp your knife is. So that's why cut it off when you do the onions, or just cut it off now. So to see the grain here, how it's running this way, so you would cut this way, which makes it really easy with an eye of round, which way to cut. You can use a fork, or you can just use your hand. Now the first slice is going to be fairly thick. I'll just cut it like that. And I've used this knife a lot of times in a lot of videos. If you don't own one of these, get it. I will link this one. This is a Victorinox. It's like 40 bucks, but there's even cheaper ones that are like 20. Just get one. You're not going to use it a lot, but when you need it, it comes in handy. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to shave the beef, okay? I'll take that piece over there, and then we're going to just shave. Okay, do the best you can. Okay, with the knife, but you can do a pretty good job. All right, and this roast beef's cooked perfectly. Oh, this is gonna be so good. I've been resisting buying a meat slicer just because I know a lot of you are gonna get mad if I do it. But if we had one, this meat would be cut already. Many of you know from the deli recipes. I worked in delis for a number of years. Probably cut thousands of pounds of meat on a slicer. But a slicer is not just good for meat. You can also make like awesome coleslaw with it. You know, you can just shred a bunch of stuff quickly. It's really just, it's an awesome tool. You know, the slicer they have in a deli is a $5,000 slicer, but supposedly some of the $300 ones are good on Amazon. So I'd like to test it out. If you're into that, please leave a comment, let me know, and I'll do it. Maybe I'll do like a review video on it. I always like to do everything. That's why I made all the pizza dough by hand. I do everything by hand so anybody can make it, not just people who have money that can afford a special tool. All right, so look, we got beautiful, thin, super thin, sliced roast beef. So I just sliced enough for one sandwich. By the way, this is a hero bun here, okay? Sliced it open, okay, just like this. Now, if you wrap it in paper towel, just like wet, a damp paper towel, kind of like wrap it like a mummy, and you throw this in the microwave for 30 seconds, but just watch it. It will steam it, and then it'll be nice and soft because, you know, James, like, he's very particular. He doesn't want me to brown the bread at all. He doesn't want me to, like, you know, normally I would just put the cheese on here and then put it in the oven. He doesn't want that. So I'll heat this up for a few seconds, and then I can heat cheese up in here just without bread or anything. We could just put cheese straight in here. So let's turn the heat to like medium and just do the rough size of your bread. So this is just a simple way to do it. You know, restaurants, fancy restaurants will heat up a whole block of cheese and they'll just like slide it off for you. But this is gonna melt it nicely and we'll be able to put it right on our bread without browning our bread. Maybe I could just try to like slide the bread on. I turn this off. See how nice and soft that is from being steamed? Maybe if I go like this, I can just flip the whole thing. Oh, nice. It left the crispy part there, but all the melted cheese is right there, which is perfect. This is exactly what I want. Now you can still take the rest of the melted part. All right, and we'll do a little deli wrap too so it stays relatively warm. Now here's our roast beef, our delicious roast beef. By the way, you can make a garlic roll too if you like. So typical deli hero, like, you know, cheap delis will do 1/3 of a pound. Better delis will do 1/2 a pound or more on their heroes. It's called a hero in New York. It's not called anything else. So here's the beautiful juice for him. Here are some of those onions from before. Now look, I already said like before, some people aren't gonna want this, so we'll see. Hopefully he does. They're all in there, that flavor. And look at that, that's absolutely perfect. Now listen, you could put a little bit of the hot juice in here if you want, just to kind of like get the meat like a little warm right now, but honestly, you don't need much. Better to let, your taste tester, your family member do it themselves. All right, let's do a regular deli wrap. Just pull, okay? Pull tight. Got too much paper on the side. I'll just cut it away. I don't need all that. So there, just like this, fingers down, just like you're wrapping a present. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then just even it up. Okay, and then there's that beautiful French dip ready to go. So it's like getting warm a little bit from the steaming of the bread, from the little bit of the hot juice we put on there, but we got the really piping hot French dip juice for the taste tester. So we'll bring him down, see what he says. James, thank you for coming for another round of taste testing.
Welcome.
So listen, I listened to your criticism the other night. You told me that the bread you didn't like browned, so I didn't brown the bread at all this time.
Okay.
I softened it though.
Yeah, I thought it was a little too hard on it. This looks really good. It's one of the best sandwiches. Like, I just love French dip. You made it really good.
I really took my time to get the beef thin, even though it's not as thin as if I had a slicer.
It's just so good. Seriously, puts a smile on my face.
Oh. I'm feeling this one.
I love French dip. I really like the onions on it. Like, some places just put roast beef and bread and gravy, but it's a really nice addition to it. The gravy was hot, or the au jus. The juice.
The beef, it's basically beef juice. That's pretty thin.
It was hot. I liked it and how this was like more like room temperature, not piping hot, and this is the thing that made it hot. You could see it steaming before the video.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm getting hungry just looking at it now.
I'm gonna give this a 10.
Yes! And I was just gonna say, it's impossible to get a 10 lately, but...
It's very good.
All right, thanks, buddy. Now, listen, you gave it a 10. Is there anything that you would want to make it, like... Oh, you want to take the onions?
Well, I want to put more onions on it.
Is there anything you would do to make it better? I mean, more onions, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, we have a ton.
Yeah. It doesn't need more onions, though. I just kind of like it like that.
So I wanted to do this one before I do the Italian beef, but honestly, doing this way, being able to slice it thin without a meat slicer, and you don't want to do a chuck roast again with an Italian beef. It has to be thin sliced roast beef, and then they'll use a variety of cuts for it. I wanted to get this one out of the way first, and we're gonna master that one for a home cook. Not gonna break out any expensive equipment. That's the whole point.
This is very good. I'm gonna go finish it after the video's done.
All right, thanks so much, James.
Welcome.
All right, we will see you next time.